When looking at hadith collections like Sunan Ibn Majah, we can remember that some of these are from manuscripts that were seen, and those manuscripts, of course, also record narration chains. Narration 327 reminds us that we do not have to perform ablutions every time we urinate. But that doesn't mean we can skip the ablutions if that's the case for the prayer or Quran reading or something to that effect. So in 328, we find the three places of urination that bring about a curse are the watering places, the resting places, like in the shade, that's the implication there, and the roadways. And of course, the other, going to the bath and defecating also would be in that circumstance. 329 reminds us to avoid praying or resting in the middle of the road. The middle of the road, the roads tend to be places that attract snakes and carnivorous animals, and the resting or praying there would block the road for people who need the road to go through. If one doesn't have a choice, some of these passes you don't have a choice, but you definitely avoid such a thing. The next narration is also about not praying or going to the bathroom in the middle of the road. And then we have a narration about how the Prophet, when he had to go to the bathroom, would go far away. And if you narrow down all the narrations about going to the bathroom and that sort of thing, really the thing is to modesty, avoid getting it on you, clean up as best as you can, and remember God in the pre and post stage of it, but not reciting stuff in the bathroom. That really summarizes the whole thing. There's hundreds of narrations, but Ibn Majah kind of keeps things brief, per se, where there'd be long narrations and other narrators, and sometimes dozens of basically the same narration. Narration 333 does about the same thing, and the one before that relates that after going away, he came and returned and asked for water to complete the ablutions. 334 to 336 also connect to the idea of Prophet Muhammad going away quite a ways when it came time to do such things. 337 is that even if there's a little bit of sand or something, still try to conceal yourself when you use the restroom. And if you pick out your teeth, you should consume that, except I guess when you're fasting, you don't do that, just like you don't let the water get past the, and use an odd number of things to wipe with, or wipe an odd number of times, that sort of thing. And of course, the modesty and that cleanliness aspect, one should be careful, because this is how Satan plays with your backside, you can say, although that way of phrasing it doesn't come off the same nowadays. 338 refers to the, it adds the applying of the kohl, the eyeshadow, to protect the vision and stuff. It's not a mere makeup thing. That this is done an odd number of times too, in preference. 339 is Yala bin Murrah's father was told by Muhammad to approach 2 palm trees and to tell them that the messenger of God orders you to come together. So they came together, and Muhammad had privacy to go to the bathroom. And there's more miracles narrated. 697 regards Surah 20, ayat 14, which was recited after the incident in which Bilal was to be the person who woke everybody up for the dawn prayer, and they didn't wake up until it was morning, and they all washed up and such and performed the prayer, and afterwards was told, when you forget or sleep, and just prepare, just perform the prayer when you remember. Other people's like, oh well, you missed it. It's like, well, you didn't intentionally miss the time. So as soon as you're up out of the bed and use the restroom and stuff like this, you say the prayer. Narration 654. Of course, you don't intentionally make a, stay up late watching TV or whatever, and if you think you might miss the prayer. 654 recalls that Muhammad approached, visited a freed slave, and she concealed herself, and Muhammad asked if she had started menstruating, and he tore off a piece of his turban and gave it to her to cover herself with. This was a slave of Aisha. And the next narration tells us that the contact prayer of a woman who is capable of menstruating is not accepted except the one who has a head covering. And of course, with all the modesty rules, if you're not capable, you're not capable. It's like, what if you're stuck in the hospital and they have that gown thing? What were you supposed to do? Or of course, if you're in the hospital, maybe you can't. Maybe you shouldn't be bowing and prostrating, either because the floor is all chemically and it's not safe, or it's just not safe in your condition, which is probably even more likely. Narration 696 informs us that there's no issue with the women who dye their hands when they're menstruating. 657 relates about somebody who broke an arm, and he was to wipe over the bandages. He'd have to take off the things and risk breaking the scabs or any of that stuff. 592 relates that a person who's in a state of keep away from, the sex or the menstruation or whatever, there's no problem in them sleeping or eating or drinking. It's just preferred for them to do ablutions first. 598 reminds us that we should clean under every hair, and between the prayers and between the Friday service, that's expiation for the sins between them and fulfilling one's trust.